watching planes land at JFK. My hotel is in the flight path. I'm not afraid. It's all right. What I am going to tell you is it's episode 43 of Coast to Coast Pinball. And I'm very, very out of quarters. So let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball, episode 43. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast. It is a commentary. And like I said, I'm very out of quarters. I am in New York. Wouldn't say exactly New York City. I'm technically in Jamaica, part of Queens, New York, which is where the John F. Kennedy International Airport is located. Staying out here for a couple nights, moving into the city tomorrow night. Who knows where after that, all over the place, out here on a work trip, and here to play some pinball. Don't tell anybody. How's it going? It's Tuesday night? It is Tuesday night. It's Tuesday night. It's 11, 12, 13. And yes, I took a screenshot of my phone at 9:10 p.m., so I have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Pretty weird little date occurrence there, if I must say. So, what's happening out there? I'll tell you what's happening with me. I spent a couple of hours in a laundromat tonight. And not just any laundromat, but a laundromat that has a bunch of awesome pinball machines.
Trip reports.
So I'd like to take you all, in your minds at least, since we can't go on a field trip on a podcast. It doesn't work. I've been thinking about how to make it happen. It just doesn't work. But let's go to the Sunshine Laundromat in the Greenpoint area of Brooklyn, New York on Manhattan Avenue. So, it's a laundromat, and they just happen to have one of the best selections of pinball machines I've ever seen. Not the biggest, but one of the best. If I told you in one place you could play, and let's go to the Pinside Top 100 here, the number 1 ranked, 2 ranked, 3, 4, 6, 9... 12th, 13th, 15th, and 45th ranked pinball machines, all in one room, all for 50 cents a play. Would you be into that? I think you'd be into that. Well, that's what you can do at the Sunshine Laundromat. Oh, and by the way, you can clean your clothes while you're there, or pay them to do it. There was actually a young gentleman there washing and folding clothes, because they do, service where you drop your clothes off. We'll go into that on a future episode of Coast to Coast Laundry. Teresa will host that one, obviously. So, I've known about this place, and I've missed going there a couple times. It's sort of in the north end of Brooklyn, and I stay in Long Island City sometimes, not a mile away from this, and I feel very dumb for having not gone there yet. Their game list is just awesome, because it's a laundromat. It is a full-on laundromat. It's a skinny, long unit in a old section of Brooklyn, old buildings. There's this beautiful old giant church like right next door to it. But this laundromat, the Sunshine Laundromat, has a little cutout part in the very front, which is a little watch repair shop with just one little guy sitting in his little box working on watches or counting money, as he was when I was there earlier. Let me give you the game list, because it's pretty epic. So we've got Attack from Mars, Monster Bash, Theater of Magic, The Addams Family, World Cup Soccer, Scared Stiff, Twilight Zone, Medieval Madness, Tales of the Arabian Nights, and Whitewater, all in one room. They also have a Star Trek The Next Generation, which would be the 10th ranked game on the Pinside Top 100, and it looks like it's being worked up or shopped up to come up live, because it was actually sitting up high on another level in the room. I don't even know how they got it up there. Pretty amazing. All the games are 50 cents. There's coin machines readily available there. The games are in fantastic shape. The Monster Bash and the Attack from Mars were probably the cleanest I have ever seen. Hands down. And actually, come to think of it, all of the games were really clean. These are meticulously kept games. I saw no problems. I saw no light bulbs out. I saw no wear. I saw no bad flipper rubber. But let me tell you what I did see on these games. I saw some ridiculously steep table angles. The level or bubble in a couple of the games was all the way to the top. And Attack from Mars was crazy steep. Monster Bash was fairly steep, and there was Scared Stiff, also very steep. There were a couple that weren't bad. Theater of Magic was actually very flat and played pretty easily, but I think this is sort of their way of keeping the playtime down on these games, maybe. There's some good pinball players in New York City and Brooklyn, and for 50 cents a play on literally most of the A-list, you could tear these tables up in a hurry, so they've kind of stacked the deck against you. This will only make those of you who come and frequent the Sunshine Laundromat much better players. It took me a while. Like, I wasted, in Monster Bash specifically, a couple of dollars just because it was so brutal. It's one of those things where the ball just rolls differently. The games were so steep. It kind of bothers me because it doesn't feel like it was how the game was intended. Attack from Mars was just absolutely ridiculous. I felt like the back of the back glass was almost at eye level. It was so tilted up. So I didn't play it very much just because it seemed sort of silly. But it was really clean and really nice. So I threw money in I played every game except Medieval Madness because it was out of order. It was almost like a sign by the pinball gods telling me about this Medieval Madness situation. There was one other guy in there who played. I was in there almost 2 hours, and there was one other guy who played most of the time I was there too. He was kind of locked in on the Addams Family, and he came over and watched me play. Actually, I got a ball. I always play Twilight Zone, even though I own one out on location, just because I like to see how people have their game set, how it plays. And this Twilight Zone was set up way more difficult than mine. You had to relight everything, and it started with nothing lit. It was on hard difficulty across the board. So it was really interesting. But I did get a free ball on it, did get to 200 million, and he was over there watching me because I got, a multi-ball going. I don't think he'd ever seen maybe that multi-ball go on that particular table because it was hard to do. So he watched me, and that was kind of fun. I'm not super chatty out in the arcades and in the places. I should be more. I probably meet some really great people, but I sort of get in a zone and just start, playing the games. And I had a lot of fun. The Whitewater was probably the game out of the whole group that was in, I can't even say the worst shape because it was in fine shape, but it just didn't, the flippers on all these games were really good and really just exact, and the Whitewater felt a little loose and rough around the edges. And also, it was the closest game towards the actual big area of laundromat, and there was a ton of bright lights above it. Now that's something else I noticed at the Sunshine Laundromat. The lighting in the room is very bright, very it felt like daylight, and I had never seen a Monster Bash in such a bright room before, and it really looked different to me because obviously all the GI lighting sort of gets washed away when you have all this room light just hitting the table, and I could really look at the artwork, and the games actually look very different when you can see every little bit. World Cup Soccer was immaculate. I mean, the game just looked like it was out of a box. I had a lot of fun playing that. We're going to dive into that one in a little bit. And I don't know. I mean, what a cool place to be. It's not the easiest place in the world to get to. The G train subway will get you really close. That's the way to get there. I'm driving, so I just drove and parked across the street on a side neighborhood street. A lot of brownstone walk-up style buildings. Looks like a sitcom's about to break out. And I think 2 hours of parking was $2. So, not bad if you're, on Long Island and can get down to Brooklyn and get in there. Right across the street, there's a pizza place called Fornino, which was awesome. I mean, amazing, coal oven, brick oven type pizza. Just so good. It really got me wondering, looking at the Sunshine Laundromat, because I know it's not the only laundromat to have pinball over the years. I've seen, pinball machines in laundromats before. It's a great kind of time kill, a great thing to get people to, come to your laundromat. And so I almost think that maybe we need to revisit some of these oddball places for pinball machines, like laundromats, I don't know, the DMV. I'm just kidding. But places where you got to go and spend some time, and maybe we could, put some pinball machines in there. I think laundromats are a great one because they tend to be in urban areas where people are, would be into, playing pinball. So if you've got machines and you're thinking about maybe putting some games out on route, and I've had that email from a few people asking me what I thought about that, and I tell them I have no idea, not my scene. Maybe laundromats would be a good place. Hey, there's quarters there already. Everyone's already using quarters. I did, when I was walking in, a guy and his son was probably 7, were walking out, and by the way, they had little step stools around a bunch of the games so kids could get up and play them. The kid was just yelling about Monster Bash. He was, I want to play Monster Bash again. I love Monster Bash. So he was really into that. That was good to see. That was nice. So pretty diverse area of Brooklyn. Cool little area. Great restaurants. Coffee shop right next door. So if you need to load up on caffeine before you play pinball. I think they're open like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., maybe a little bit later on the weekends. So, decent hours, not super late. There's lots more pinball down in Brooklyn, down at like Jack Bar is kind of the place, a little farther south in like Williamsburg area. And then there's tons of bars that have 2 or 3 games all over the place. But I spent a bunch of time at Sunshine Laundromat. What a fun place. What a happening scene. I wholeheartedly endorse it. You may not ever see in a small collection like that, outside of a personal collection, such a well-kept, high-level collection of A-list games to go play. So, do it to it. That was lame. Do it to it. I just said do it to it. Somebody, kill me right now, please. And I'm leaving it in there. I'm not going to edit it out. I deserve that. That's my punishment for saying do it to it. Ugh.
Highlights and lowlights.
Oh, the highlights and the lowlights. World Cup Soccer. I wanted to choose the lowest ranked game at Sunshine Laundry to talk about because I don't know that we've done many of the top ones. I guess we've done Medieval Madness and maybe one other. Maybe just Medieval Madness at this point. So I wanted to choose World Cup Soccer because I hadn't played it in a while, and I have played this game quite a bit, but this is the first time I ever really, not the first time since I've been doing this podcast that I really sat down and played it with the intentions of talking about it later. And I played it a lot. I really enjoyed it. And I'm sort of kicking myself because recently, on Craigslist in San Diego, where I live, World Cup Soccer came up at a fairly, I thought, low price. I think the gentleman was asking $1,800 for the game with 2 big caveats. It didn't have a translate and it didn't have a speaker panel. The speaker panel would be tough. The translate, you can find them. You can get them. I would find an alternate translate if it was me. More on that later. He was asking $1,800 and I'm not really in the good spot to buy a game right now because I have a Judge Dredd that I sort of need to sell or do something with. And oh, by the way, I'm spending $8,000 on Medieval Madness, apparently. So I lowballed an offer out there. I threw a really low offer out there to him. I basically threw him what I could take him in cash right in that moment. And I'll just tell you, I think I offered him $1,300 for it because I figured if I went to go get the original translate, I'm going to spend $250 or $300. And a speaker panel could be, I don't even know how long to get a speaker panel, if I could even find the speaker panel. So, $1,300. And yeah, I know the game's worth more than that. And his game looked like it was in okay shape, but I'm suspect of any pinball machine that doesn't have a speaker panel or a translate. So let me just get that out there. And he replied to me using my name as if he knew who I was, which worried me a bit. I have that issue sometimes talking with people with games and even in the industry is, do you know that I have a podcast? Are you hating me right now because of it? But he replied that he had more than that into the game and he couldn't let it go for that. So I totally understood, and that's cool. But now I'm wondering, I wonder if I could have gotten it for $1,550 or $1,600 because I really like this game. So World Cup Soccer. Let's talk about the highlights. Let's give some general info on the highlights. February 1994. This game was released under the Bally name by the Williams Bally conglomerate. They built a lot of these. They built 8,743 of these. This is a John Papaduke design. John Papaduke is probably one of the best known pinball game designers, but when you really go back and look at what he designed, he didn't design all that many games. I'm actually going to pull the list up right now as we're talking about it, just so I can be very accurate in this. So John Papaduke's first game at the Bally Midway Corporation, Bally Midway Williams, whatever you want to call it, would have been World Cup Soccer. Then Theater of Magic, then Tales of the Arabian Nights, Circus Voltaire, I'm totally missing Ice Castle. I've screwed myself up on this because Ice Castle is a game that I don't know anything about other than he designed it, but they never built it. So maybe I guess you say that it was designed but not produced, sort of. But we're talking about games that were released, right? So then there was Star Wars Episode 1, which is obviously Pin 2K, Pinball 2000, and that was it. No, nothing else other than some Zizzle stuff that I don't even know. Was that even produced? I don't even know about the Zizzle stuff. It was like toys. I don't talk about toys. This isn't Coast to Coast Toy Pinball. This is Coast to Coast Pinball. And John's been working on some boutique things since then with a very diehard fan base eagerly awaiting his next release. But let's be real clear. He really only had, 4 real games? 4 games and a Pinball 2000 game? And out of those 4 games that didn't have a video screen in them, World Cup Soccer was, by quite a bit, by over 2,000 units, the largest run. So this is your best chance at owning a John Papaduke game, is World Cup Soccer. So, the theme, I'm going to sneeze, so we're pausing this thing. Like it never happened. The theme is the World Cup, the soccer tournament that travels the world and happens every few years. And in 1994, the World Cup took place in the United States. And that's why they use this as a theme. So the World Cup traveled cities to cities, and I think it culminated in Los Angeles. And we didn't win. Spoiler alert. So if you look at this game, there's a few things really interesting about World Cup Soccer at this time period. First of all, it was not a wide-body game. Williams had been releasing a lot of wide-body games. And if you go back and take a look at the games right before that, if we look at 1993, you see this run from Twilight Zone, wide-body, Indiana Jones' Pinball Adventure, wide-body, Judge Dredd, wide body, Star Trek The Next Generation, wide body. Well, then we get to World Cup Soccer. And I think it's interesting because World Cup Soccer is not a wide body. It's the standard size, or narrow body, as you might want to call it. And even in the advertising to distributors, they talked about it. They actually bring it up that this is a narrow body, almost sort of as a, kind of a marketing, push. Like, hey, by the way, this is not a wide body game. So, looking at the game, first thing you're going to notice, there's a giant soccer ball in the game, right? It's kind of like looking at Funhouse. You see Rudy's head. Well, World Cup Soccer, you see a big freaking soccer ball. Upper right side of the playfield. And it spins. It's kind of the calling card of the game, so to speak. So it's basically the top third half, maybe, of a soccer ball. Not a full-size soccer ball, but a big soccer ball. And it spins. And will alter the ball's path, and it's rubber, so it grips the pinball and spins it all around, and it creates some very interesting shots. It makes for a very bouncy area up in that upper playfield part. This game is, you can't say it's classic Papaduke because it was really the first Papaduke any of us ever saw, but you can see the beginning of what sort of became his kind of feel of the game. Really smooth ramps, good flow, but lots of interesting ideas. So he went old school on this game with some ideas, because when you look at World Cup Soccer, you're going to see rollover targets, which, that's, how long had it been since we saw actual rollover targets? So we have these 4-star targets that lead up to the goal. The other kind of signature, it's definitely the signature shot on the game, is the goal shot. It's in the back of the box, and it has a pretty wide target that, think neutral zone on Star Trek The Next Generation, but it has a goalie target that moves back and forth protecting the goal that you shoot, and you either make it past him to score the goal, or you hit him and he makes the save. Pretty interesting. There's 2 ramps. There's a couple scoops, I believe. Yeah, 2 scoops. 1 scoop, 2 scoops? I can't recall. See, now I'm forgetting what I played. There's 2 rollover lanes up top into 3 pop bumpers. You also see the return of the Magna Save. And we had seen the Magna Save before on Black Knight. This time, John used the Magna Save above the left flipper. And the idea was you had a button by your left flipper button where if you saw a ball coming straight down the middle, you hit this, started the magnet, it pulled the ball over to the Magna Save, and then you could grab it with the left flipper and hit your shots to control it. I have never remembered to use the MagnaSave. I looked at it today and thought, oh yeah, try and use that while I'm playing, and then forgot. I have never seen anybody use it properly. I'm sure it sort of works, but when you read reviews of this game, you will quickly see that people sort of make a joke out of the MagnaSave. The skill shot. So another thing that's different here than from most of the games that were coming out of the Williams factory at the time, this game had an actual plunger on it. It wasn't an electronic button like you saw on Judge Dredd and Star Trek The Next Generation and things like that. So you actually had a plunger, and the skill shot was called a coin toss, and it sort of did like an upside down loop. Like it came back at you, sort of looped around and back at you into these three little areas, and each area has a lit light. And at the first time you do the skill shot, I think all three are lit, and then the second ball, there's only two lit, and you have to hit that one. And the third time, there's only one lit. So that's kind of, the playfield itself is supposed to look like a soccer stadium, not a soccer pitch or field, which I think is a good thing. Upon further looking at it, from photos, not being in front of it and just wanting to, play ball like I tend to, the world is sort of depicted in the background. There's a referee / cheerleader girl. She's a referee, definitely, because she's giving you a yellow card. She's got a whistle around her neck, which is being pushed away by her shirt. And she's wearing very short shorts for a referee, and she's apparently calling a foul on you, the player. So you have the goalie guy down at the bottom kind of reaching up and hitting with his hand the ball, which ends up being the MagnaSave spot for the magnet. Then you have the goalie in the back. And I believe there's also a couple other like player-type guys around. But here's where it gets a little weird. The back glass. And this goes into the low light section when we talk highlights and lowlights. The back glass. This is probably one of the most hated back glasses in pinball, especially out of the top 50, top 60 games on the Pinside Top 100. I'll bet this is right up there as worst back glass. And that is because of Striker, the World Cup pup. More on him later. So the back glass has a soccer game going on behind it, and fireworks and the Statue of Liberty, and a Zeppelin airship in the background with goal on it, and players, and then in big front and center holding a trophy, Striker, the World Cup pup. So let's get into the playing of this game a little bit. There's a ton of inserts on this game. This game actually has a color scheme that I've certainly never seen before on a game where there's like teals and purples, and it's just interesting. It looks very different when you look at the game. I've always kind of thought that the back glass and the playfield don't really match that well. Like they tried. The teals are supposed to kind of be green, but they come off really more teal. And then purple. And, the sky in the background of the back glass, this is kind of a purple, deep blue purple color, but they're different shades. So they just didn't match up to me very, very well. So you got your skill shot, which I told you about, where it flips the ball kind of backwards at you. And obviously most people are going to try and shoot goals. And I believe most of the time on location, I always see this where the goal light with the goalie moving back and forth in front of, that's always lit to start. So you can always kind of go to shoot a goal. That's kind of the rewarding, the novice shot, what we're all trying to do right at the beginning. Every time you shoot a goal, you get an ultra mode, and there's these 4 lightning bolt targets. Really cool inserts, the way they did these lightning bolt targets that get going on the playfield, and you get bonus points for hitting certain things. You have Ultra Goalie, so you get bonus points for hitting the goalie, which, by the way, there's awesome DMD animations for hitting the goalie. There's Ultra Ramps. You get extra points for hitting the ramps. Ultra Jets, the jet bumpers, and then the Ultra Spinner. There's a spinner over above the left orbit shot. So those are kind of the 4 little after goalie modes that pop up. So once you hit a goal, the goal's no longer lit. So how do you get to shoot another goal? Well, let's go back to those 4 rollover targets. Those rollover targets are sort of in a line, sort of a curved line up from the center right to the center of where the goal is. And when you roll over them, you light them up. And once they're all lit, then the goal is lit again, and you can again shoot the goal. There's also a saucer target to the left and just in front of the goal, which is called the assist cup or the assist saucer. And when you hit that in there and goal's lit, you then can pop the ball into the goal with the flipper. And it's a really easy shot because the ball's right in front of it. You just wait for the goalie to move over, you hit the flipper, ball goes in, and you get a goal. It's a really fun shot. There was some really good stuff in this game. I can't stress enough how rewarding the shots tend to feel in this game. So, looking at what else you can do, and I hadn't really gone very far into this game. To me, this is always sort of a shallow game, but there is some other stuff going on. And if you look at all these inserts that are all over this playfield, you should know that. So you also have these TV awards. So if you score 4 goals, you get the TV award is lit, and then you can hit the TV award and get one of those shots. And it's a scoop shot, and there are 4 different awards you get in order. There's also the Striker Awards, and remember, Striker is the dog. He's the mascot guy. There's 3 Striker targets. There's 2, one on either side of the left ramp, and then there's a third that's tucked back up into the right somewhere, I believe. I just don't recall exactly where. Well, anyway, every time you hit one of those, it adds a letter to the word Striker, and you're trying to light up Striker all the way across. So once you light up Striker, the Striker Scoop is then lit. And then there's random awards given for that. Everything like extra balls, multi-ball starts, things like that. So you got that going as well. So that's one thing that you can progress through. How do you get multi-ball, right? Well, so in the middle of this game, and I don't think it stands out very well because I never noticed it until today when I was actually on my phone reading rules and playing the game all at once, trying to put some thoughts together on this. There's this soccer ball in the middle. And it actually tells you that, complete these to light the lock. And then you light the lock, and then you can start multi-ball. Well, to complete these lights, there's these 5 inserts there that you're trying to light, and they're called Strength, Stamina, Skill, Speed, and Spirit, all S's. And you get these by hitting up the build shots. And there's inserts around the table with the little soccer ball logo that kind of matches where all those S words are, and a build insert. So it says build. So every time you hit one of those, and that's like the, I think it's like the left ramp, the left spiral, the right ramp, and the Striker Scoop. And so every time you hit those, you light up one of the S words on the soccer ball. Light all 5, and now lock and multi-ball are lit. So if you lock a ball for multi-ball, you get more balls in your multi-ball, or you can just start multi-ball. The other advantage of locking multi-ball, we'll talk about in just a second. So once you get multi-ball lit, there's the final draw scoop, which is the other scoop over on the right, which you hit that. It's kind of in front of the big soccer ball. That starts multi-ball. So the way multi-ball works in this game is you're assigned a team to play in the World Cup tournament. You're sort of your own independent, autonomous nation. We'll call it you podcast listener a Stan. Okay, so you podcast listener, Stan, is going to play soccer against the top 15 teams in the world. And based on how many goals you've scored and based on whether or not you locked a ball, you're going to get seeded against someone. The lowest team you can play is actually the United States at number 15. So that would be like having no goals scored and not locking a ball. If you lock a ball, here's why it's important, you instantly get 4 seeds up in the tournament. So to beat the team, you just shoot the goal. And then to get to the next team, you shoot a ramp and relight the jackpot, hit a ramp, and then hit the goal again. Rinse, repeat, go, go, go. That's the multi-ball. And it's kind of a different take on multi-ball, and I kind of like it. It's a neat. It really works with the theme well, because we're talking about a big soccer tournament. So what else is there? There's got to be more, right? There is. There's a bunch of cities, and you'll see World Cup spelled out vertically on the lower left side of the playfield. It says World Cup down it. And underneath each letter of World Cup, there's a city in New York. And the goal here is to get all the cities lit and then get to Los Angeles. And you get a city lit by lighting the word travel. And I'm totally blanking on how you do that. But trust me, you're lighting the word travel. I think it's a left spinner shot. It's a left spinner shot. So you're going to hit the left spinner shot, and it's actually not the orbit. It is the spinner, because I noticed today when I shot a ball up that left orbit, I had travel lit or a couple cities lit, and I got it once on the way up, and then the ball didn't quite make the whole orbit shot, which is probably, if there is a clunky shot on this game, it's probably the left orbit. Doesn't feel real smooth. But then it came back down, hit the spinner again, and I got the next city too. So it actually lit 2 cities at once. So if you get to LA and light them all, and some of these cities do have their own little bonus modes in there. So, take note of that. And they're listed there's a little call out on the letter on the playfield. I think Boston has one, Washington, D.C. has one, and maybe New York as well. So when you get to Los Angeles, you go to a 5-ball multi-ball, timed multi-ball. You actually have to hit the multi-ball scoop, which is the final draw scoop. You start the game. It's the final match against Germany. Big bad Germany, who's ranked number 1. And it's a timed 5-ball multi-ball. And you have 45 seconds, and you have to score more goals than Germany. And Germany's going to score a goal every few seconds. Generally, from what I've seen, 5 balls is going to win that match. 3 or 4 may get you a tie. And yes, there is overtime. And in overtime, it's first one to score wins. Very, very thrilling. Super enjoyable. I wouldn't call it a wizard mode exactly. This game isn't really mode heavy in the sense of you get into a mode, complete the mode, go to the next mode. It's sort of more of linear modes, if you will. So those are some of the highlights of World Cup Soccer, some of the stuff you'll see when you play the game. Let's talk about the drawbacks, the lowlights. Why is this game ranked 45th and not 12th or something like that? So obviously I think the theme is going to turn some people off. Sports themes just tend to alienate a certain subset of people. I'm not a huge soccer fan, but for some reason the theme doesn't really bother me. Let me tell you what bothers me. Striker, the World Cup pup, bothers me. It's ridiculous. It doesn't fit. It's not cool. There's no longevity to this. It ruins the translate. It's horrible. You have this serious soccer match going on there, and then you have Striker, the World Cup pup, in his USA shirt, holding his trophy in one hand and his pinball in one paw, and he's all over the playfield, and he's always smiley and kicking the soccer ball behind him, and I don't know. I don't like it. That's my least favorite part of it, and I get that they're trying to keep it lighthearted, and it's a family-friendly theme, but that kind of bums me out a little bit. The soccer ball toy can definitely be a low light because I've seen them in really rough shape out there, and I don't think they're super easy to replace. I think somebody was selling a replacement for a while, but I looked and the one I found online was listed as sold out, which on parts supply sites is sometimes a bad sign because it may not be produced anymore. The motor that spins this thing can be very loud. Now, I will give Sunshine Laundry props. That ball wasn't making much noise. Very nice. But the last one I played of these, I literally couldn't stand playing it because it sounded like a jet engine coming from the game. And that was I can tell you where that was. That was in a bar restaurant by a hotel in Fort Collins, Colorado, somewhere in the winter last year. So the lack of modes could be considered a low light because it is really sort of a linear progression through things. But I think they've got enough going on, and this game in a small collection, would probably get old, as I think it's one of those games that once you figure out what's going on, it's not all that difficult. Although I seem to just be horrible at hitting the right ramp in the right orbit. I don't know what my problem is. I just can't hit them to save my life. Really bad at that. The plunger. So it's cool that it has an old school plunger. It's bad that there's no auto kicker at all in this game. Did I not mention a 5-ball multi-ball? Oh, yes, I did. Well, guess how those other 4 balls are going to get out into the playfield to beat Germany? Yep, you are going to plunge them. That's kind of annoying on a more modern game, right? So, other than that, I think it's a pretty cool game. I like it. I'm kind of jonesing to play it again. I don't like Striker, the World Cup pup. In fact, in my hate towards Striker, the World Cup pup, I actually Googled him to find out where he came from, how he became the mascot. And it has caused controversy over the year. There was actually a website with a survey on the top 10 dumbest mascots in World Cup history. And guess who number 1 was? Well, it wasn't Striker, the World Cup pup, but he was number 2. So now I know you're sitting there wondering what could possibly be worse than Striker, the World Cup pup. Well, let me tell you. It was from 1974, and it was from the Germans, Tip and Tap. Tip and Tap were two rosy-cheeked, affectionate boys, because they had their arms around each other, wearing half shirts. And it's awful. It looks like a bad Sunday morning cartoon Dennis the Menace type of drawings of just these two dudes, Tip and Tap, and they're happy to be playing soccer in the 70s and wearing their half shirts with their belly button showing, and it's pretty bad. So, but anyway, at least they're not on our back glass for a top 50 pinball machine in our history. So get out there, find a World Cup Soccer. There's lots of them available. What are they worth, you ask? Well, let me tell you. In the past 5 years on eBay, the average sale price on eBay is $1,300. So this is a value game, a Bally Williams game from the 90s for $1,300. John Papaduke, $1,300. In the past year, in this year, 2013, 4 have sold on eBay for an average of $2,280. So this is a game big time on the going up side of things. And I think it's going to continue to do so because it is a fun game. It is a designer that is beloved. And it has some very kind of unique stuff going on. And there's some alternate translates out there, which could fix the whole Striker, the World Cup pup situation. I am on the lookout. I'll just say that. Find a World Cup Soccer, play it, enjoy it. If you have one, tell me about it. Love to hear from you. Break a little news here on Coast to Coast Pinball. If you guys remember back a couple episodes, we had Joel and Dana Reeves from the Southern Fried Game Room Expo 2014 talking about the Kickstarter that they had going up, looking to get some money to sort of recoup some of the upfront expenses, add in some special guests possibly. Well, I just received an email and was pointed to the Kickstarter page, and with 19 days to go, with lots of time to go, they have reached their goal. They are at $4,061, which means I'm getting my poster, and which also means they're going to be able to add some really cool stuff to the event. So very exciting to have that go so well for them. And I know they have some stretch goals and some things planned. So if you are planning on going in June, right? Please be June, so I'm not screwed up here. If you're planning on going to Atlanta and it's June 20th to 22nd, get on the Kickstarter and get yourself some free stuff and get yourself admission. Because, you get your admission locked in, paid for now, and you get something cool. And you support these guys. So go do it. Because I said so. Or don't, because I said so. I'm actually embarrassed how bad I've been at the email. When I started this podcast, one thing I said to Teresa is, if people take the time to email me, because I didn't know if I was going to get email when I started this out. I didn't know if anybody was even going to listen, to be quite honest. I'm going to reply to everybody, and we'll read all the emails on the show, so that can be people's way of being a part of it, right? Well, I can't read all the emails on the show. I just can't do it, because there's too many. I feel like I'm bragging, and I'm really, truly not. I'm flattered more than anything about how many emails I get. And I'm just tonight, before I started recording this podcast, I'm replying to 3-week-old emails right now, trying to say hello. I read them all. I always read them. When I get an email on my phone from somebody about this podcast, I have a separate email. It pops up on my phone. I get so excited. I show people. I'm like, see, remember the thing I told you about to do this podcast on pinball? People email me and tell me about their pinball lives. So it means a ton to me. I'm sorry I can't read them all online. I will reply to everybody eventually, but we are going to hit up some hotspots because I've had some really, really cool emails from a few people in the last few weeks. All right. So let me find them. I say that I have these really cool ones, and I go looking, and I can't find them, and I'm just finding ones from... Okay, so here's one I got to go. This one says titled "Hello from Tempe," and this was only 4 days ago. It starts out, Nate. Hey man, just discovered your podcast and have been listening to it a lot in the last week or so. I've really enjoyed it. Keep it up. It's funny because I feel like we have a lot in common as far as our interests and backgrounds. His name's Nate, by the way. His name's, I won't say his last name because he may not want it read, but his name has to do with, like, things that are hot and warm, and my name is Shivers, which is cold and stuff, so we thought that was kind of funny. I agree. He's from Phoenix, Arizona, lives in Tempe. I went to college in Tempe, lived in Chandler, Tempe area for a long time. He plays guitar and has been in local bands for over 10 years. His band opened for Bon Jovi in 2006. Very cool. By the way, we're not an 80s hair band. We won a local radio contest, and the prize was a 30-minute set right before Bon Jovi. Very cool. Played in an arena with 17,000 50-year-old screaming women for it. Let's see. He loves Pearl Jam because he's a good man, and he grew up learning Metallica and 90s grunge music on the guitar, just like I did. He understands I work for Taylor. He owns a Taylor. He loves Taylor, so there's all this cool stuff. So he kind of went into his pinball love, the same things he's into, kind of the stuff that I'm into myself. It seems like I have a sort of I don't know, like a shadow out there, another guy named Nate who's living a life similar to mine, which is kind of fun. So he wrote me a really great email. It's too long to read here, but I did want to say a shout out to Nate from Nate. Thank you for the email. It's very often. I'll actually get around to replying to you sooner or later. I wanted to read this email. This is from Robert. He wrote, Nate, you've discussed talk on the angle of the DMD on Stern's Star Trek machine. Here's something to consider that you may wish to discuss on your podcast. That's what we're doing right now. Did Jersey Jack need to introduce Invisiglass to address the increased reflection problem of the large, bright LCD? If so, Stern would have that same reflection problem. Wouldn't a simpler solution for Stern to backlight the LCD? This would minimize the profile of the screen, and the light emissions would be lower at an angle. The tilt approach would work if the LCD is the size of an existing DMD, such that the whole backbox would not need to be tilted back. If Stern are almost at a point of introducing a video display, which I think they're close, why would they alter the back box at this stage unless the current back box configuration is what they will use for their LCD? I'm betting the upcoming Stern LCD will be the size of an existing DMD that would use the new Star Trek back box configuration, essentially the same display size that colored DMD is using. Now, I hadn't thought of that. It's interesting. I think Invisiglass probably did have part to do with the LCD. I wouldn't doubt that. I don't know that for sure. We'll ask Jack that at some point. That's a great question. I think the tilt approach can work for the whole back glass though, because you can tilt the entire top part of the box back a few degrees to kind of get that glare off somewhat, I think. I will be surprised, honestly, Robert, if that Stern goes to an LCD that's the size of the current DMDs. I think that would be too limiting. I think they would be better off just going to a more standardized size as far as what video is shot in, because that's going to be your issue there, going into a short, wide screen, is that video is just not shot in that, and you end up cutting off the sides and doing things like using only a third of it or 2/3 of it. So I'm guessing not. I don't know the mechanics of why the back box is shaped the way it is now. I'm not sure. I need to go back and look at Star Trek again and see if that top part's angled or not. It's something to think about, though. It's a good thing. Rob, I appreciate the email. Rob's from Melbourne, Australia, so that's awesome. Anytime I see somebody email me from Australia, I'm for it. We'll look into that. If anybody knows, like, weigh in on that one. It'll get you to the front of the line on the emails for sure. So thank you for the email, Rob. Kane, who's local to me, he wrote me, listen to the podcast, and here is my trip report for the Pinball Hall of Fame. That place rocks. If you like playing pinball, it is a must-see. This is the second time there, and I enjoyed myself a lot more this time. I literally could sit there for 10 hours and play pinball, but I only had 3 hours as visit. Only 3 hours? Good God, man. I was there once with Teresa for like 6, and I thought she was going to kill me. Our eyes were literally going cross-eyed at the end of that night. I was a little disappointed because I was expecting all the games to work properly and be clean. It's not that way at all, and a few of the games I really wanted to play were down. I feel you, I've had that problem. Games like Circus Voltaire, Bonsai Run, and Haunted House, just name it. You know, that Haunted House at the Pinball Hall of Fame, I've never seen it running. I've been there a few times, and it's always been down. That's why I'm always scared to buy a Haunted House. I just don't see those games out in the wild that much and would like to play them. Oh well, I'll have to pick from the other 289 pinball games there. I played a lot of games on Sunday, including Champion Pub, Johnny Mnemonic, Funhouse, WWE, Whitewater. It's actually WWF. Let's be real clear on our wrestling pinball. Tales of the Arabian Nights, Space Shuttle, Monster Bash. I mean, come on, look at that list of machines I got to play in one place. Yeah, come to a laundromat in Brooklyn. Can anyone really complain about the condition? I passed on all the new games besides Wizard of Oz. That is a beautiful game. And then he talks about Medieval Madness, and I'm on a no Medieval Madness talk right now, so we won't talk about that. Thank you for the email, Kane. I really appreciate that. Let's see. I think there's one more I wanted to hit. Jordan wrote me a really nice email. Let's start it off. Jordan it says, "Hey Nate, I recently found your podcast and have enjoyed catching up to the current episodes. I started listening to catch up around episode 33, and now I'm bummed I have to wait a couple days between new episodes. First world problem, I know. I have listened to several of the other pin podcasts, and I enjoy your format the most." I wouldn't have read that if I'd known you were going to say you like mine better than the others, because I love the other podcasts. I try not to do that, so sorry to the other guys. I love them the most there. I love Teresa's segments. Her take on the pinball scene is very new and exciting, and the way you two play off each other is very fun to listen to. We're not playing each other. I'm torturing her. That's all real. Especially when she's tired, he wrote. I also recently enjoyed your interviews with Brendan Bailey and the people putting on the Southern Fried Game Room Expo. They have interesting things to say about new things that are happening in the hobby. More interviews of this caliber would be nice in the future. Thank you. Yeah. I gotta say, I appreciate that, Jordan. I got a ton of notes and emails and Facebook comments about the Brendan Bailey interview, the Scott Gullick's interview, Joel and Dana. So I got all these like really positives, and they were some of the most downloaded shows that we've had at Coast to Coast Pinball. And I also got a fair amount of people, and by the way, this has been the week of critical emails to the podcast, but I don't care because I got a huge ego. But I did get a fair amount of people saying they didn't like the interviews. And it wasn't the people they didn't like that I was interviewing. They just said, hey, I'd rather hear you talk about what's going on in your world and games that you like and played than sitting down and talking in an interview format. And to that I say, I respectfully will not always make you happy. And that's okay, right? I also got I've got a few pieces of feedback recently. Somebody told me they didn't like the forum static as much because they said I can read the forum. I understand. Cool. And there was something else. Letting it roll off my back. It was a critique of, I forget. Point being, I've had some really nice thought out emails pointing out some things that maybe people didn't like as much as they liked. I love that too. I love reading it because I always do want to do a better show. That's always in my mind, is how can I make shows better? And I will try things. They may not all work, but it's fun doing it. And I hope you guys sense that this is really fun for me at the end of the day, because I really love it. And I'm excited because tomorrow I'm going to go to Modern Pinball in New York City. Maybe Steve Epstein will be there. Maybe I'll get to meet the man. Who knows? Thanks for listening. Keep sending those emails. I'll get to more of them as we go. I'm always just going to kind of pick some highlights for certain shows. I won't inundate you with emails. I will reply to everybody. I think it's awesome. When I get home from this trip, there's going to be Coast to Coast Pinball shirts waiting for me, I hope. And we'll post those on the website and get you photos of those. We'll make Teresa model them for you. Especially the double XL. That's the one we'll want to see her in the most, the nightgown, right? Coast to Coast. What's my email address? Come on, Nate. coast2coastpinball@gmail.com is how you can email me. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/coast2coastpinball. On Twitter, you can follow us. It's at C2C Pinball. And then our website is www.coast2coastpinball.com. Tell your friends. Keep listening. Keep playing pinball. I appreciate it. Take care.
ممتازة ويحاول يمر. يا سلام يا سلام. هي خلاص خلصها. جول جول جول. الهدف رقم 41 في السيريا.